Congratulations! You have just won the generational lottery.
You know, Bitcoin is a solution for the Gen Zs, for the millennials, right? Once you know how it all ends, the only use of time is, how do I buy more Bitcoin? But take all your money, buy Bitcoin, then take all your time, figure out how to borrow more money to buy more Bitcoin, then take all your time and figure out what you can sell to buy Bitcoin. And if you absolutely love the thing that you don't want to sell it, go mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with it. And if you've got a business that you love because your family works for the business, it's in your family for 37 years, and you can't bear to sell it, mortgage it, finance it, and convert the proceeds into the hardest money on earth, which is Bitcoin.
The opportunity cost in Bitcoin terms, because I mean, if you couldn't tell, I've come to this conclusion, or I have this thesis that the risk-free rate of everything, the opportunity cost of everything, is Bitcoin. And you know, people will say like, "Are you kidding me? It drew down 50% in a couple months." But I'm not thinking on that time frame. I'm thinking years, decades. And so I know one thing for sure is that the cost of producing Bitcoin will continue to go up forever, essentially, because of the economic incentives and because of basically how this protocol works, the halvings, the difficulty adjustment, everything we've covered.
But is it sustainable? And in today's video, we are going to be questioning everything you thought you knew about crypto. It doesn't just have to do with XRP. Everything you thought you knew about crypto needs to be brought into question. And as Gen Z, I figured I would consult with another Gen Z about this video, and we're going to go deep. I'm not going to hold anything back. We are going to go deep, guys, and there's a very specific reason I went with Alex Rose for this video. I feel this gentleman is very educated on the topics that I want to address in this video, and essentially, guys, we're going to get into it, but we are not just looking at a landscape of good investment in crypto. This is economic warfare. The first thing I want to address in this video, guys, is where did the internet, where did Bitcoin, where did all this stuff come from in the first place? And to keep things short and get you straight into the video so we can introduce Alex Rose himself, the military created it all. We are at the complete control of the military-industrial complex, economic warfare, and the people who have controlled our world for thousands of years. But we'll get into that much later. To get this video started, where we're talking about Gen Z and how we really feel about crypto, guys, I would like to introduce to you Alex Rose himself.
Alex Rose, yeah, he moving that way. Not just charts, real freight on the interstate. While these crypto boys talk, he delivers for real. Hands on the wheel, got a code you can feel. Alex Rose, yeah, he built different. No cap from the markets to the miles. He ain't falling in traps. Yeah, there's nothing cooler than a man with a plan. Faith in his heart, in the world in his head.
YOLO, I'm Alex Rose from Alex Rose Gaming here on YouTube. I am super excited to be doing this collaboration with No Face Crypto. Thank you so much, man, for having me on the channel. I've been looking forward to guest starring on your channel for a little bit now, since we've had a couple of guest stars from you on my channel. But No Face has sent me over a list of 12 to 13 questions, which I'll read off and answer for you guys now. So buckle up, lock in, and get ready to rock and roll.
If we already caught him in 95. How indeed, detectives?
I figured you'd be the one to know.
Didn't start asking the right fucking questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Get locked in or get locked the fuck out. No Face Crypto in the building. Forever hated. The greatest truther to step face on this earth. London is falling. The kings have spoken. The one and only chosen one. No Face.
As this video goes on, it's going to get crazier and crazier throughout. All right, there's a lot that I had to put in here. I can't keep it from everybody. And a lot of you guys might know some of this information, but it just gets insane. For example, this is going to just be a little bit of a teaser, okay? But here is a picture that was taken of the Rothschild family. And if I am not mistaken, this is on Jekyll Island, which we will get into way later in the video. And there's a lot of current events taking place as we go back and look in history and we take a look back at now. It all makes sense. A lot of these events are taking place right now till this day. They just look a little different. And another example of that is Banksy's statue that they're going to take down. They don't like this shit. But Banksy's statue just got put up in London. A man marching with a flag in his face. If that is not a message, if that is not a message to the king the day he gets home from visiting America, after he makes a crazy joke, which we're going to get into way later in the video, but understand that everything that is being discussed here, when we really discuss and go into the details of economic warfare and the landscape in crypto right now, a lot of stuff rings true to history, and that's where you have to go to find truth, and not the real history, the bullshit they kind of tell you in the textbooks. This is my interpretation, and I guess my generation and the accumulation of people's ideas over years and years and years. It's obviously not just me, but when you look at what is going on right now, today, literally today, as this video is getting posted, the events that are taking place, you can literally trace back to any conspiracy you want to name. Hundreds of years ago. And for some reason, every single time, they find their way back to London. That being said, let's get right into the video. You feel me?
Question number 1. When you step back and look at crypto right now, do you feel like we are witnessing innovation breaking through or something starting to unravel beneath the surface? I'd have to say both. Crypto has come a long way from just being something that you do in your basement on a computer collecting digital coins that are only good to buy a pizza.
You paid 10,000 Bitcoin for one pizza?
It was 2 pizzas, actually.
Oh, you got 2 pizzas out of it.
And, I mean, maybe the $80 million, I don't know.
To now, a single Bitcoin is worth tens of thousands, and depending on if it rebounds, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Crypto is being more widely accepted by institutions and investors than it has in the past.
But you're building out a cryptocurrency capability? No. I mean, we're looking at it.
Of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities to bonds across the board.
It's very loud here.
It is very loud.
But it's good. Capital's at work, Larry. You like that.
I love capital at work.
Yeah.
But
However, it was mostly deregulated, Wild West, and still slightly is, when you look at things like Haktua coin, the pump and dump schemes.
Oh, you gotta give him that Haktua and spit on that thing.
While y'all's fans got rug pulled,
regulation and clarity is helping to drive the innovation forward as this new technology speeds up banking, which is also why something is starting to unravel. The trad banking system, or the traditional banking system, has had it really good for a really long time, and they've had virtually no competition. Cryptocurrency changes the game and shakes things up a little bit, which has brought in a lot of change. And what do people hate? They hate change and they hate the unknown. So they cling to the ways of the old world. They attack crypto, they damn it, they try to change public perception of it, and then when that eventually fails, they tried to sue it into oblivion. They tried to weaponize the justice system, like against the Ripple case. What was the SEC versus Ripple? But that ended up making Ripple and XRP stronger. That which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Some banks are still digging their heels in, trying to cling to the ways of the old world, to the traditional banking, and maintain their power and control. While others are starting to adopt this new form of electronic payments, transactions, ledgers. That way they can be having an overhaul and brought into the next century. Now, what we know about human nature is that we hate the unknown. We hate new, we hate change. But what we've seen time and time again throughout history is those who adopt a technology first will usually dominate. Think about it like this. Traditional banking is like dudes using spears and arrows to try and fight. And then new banking comes, crypto comes strolling up with their black powder muskets and obliterates the competition. Those who can adapt to a new technology first will be able to dominate for a short period of time and gain a head start.
This reminds me of a scene in 2001 Space Odyssey where the obelisk lands, the monkeys are going crazy, and one of them picks up a stick. And the way this is filmed, you can just see the gears turning inside that monkey's head. This was humans before they were humans. The stick is a weapon. And what a lot of us are currently realizing with cryptocurrency is that this is a weapon against the banking system. And it is clear that they are weaponizing it against us to a certain extent, but I won't go too deep.
Question number 2. With so many crypto accounts getting banned on X lately, do you think this is about protecting people from misinformation or shaping what narratives are allowed to exist? Well, as a victim of the recent X purge, or bot purge as they're calling it, having my account put into restrictive mode even though I didn't do anything that was against the terms of service, as far as I know, I would have to definitely say it is about controlling the narrative. Is there a lot of misinformation or disinformation or kind of scumbaggy, scammy activities that go on? Yeah. But the long arm of trad banking, of those in power, of those who are working at X, but also are on the board of advisors or working for other specific cryptocurrencies, I won't name names, they have a vested interest in controlling the narrative, at least for the time being. And what we've seen throughout history is those who try to control information don't really line up with being the good guys. Cutting out a man's tongue doesn't prove he's wrong, it just shows you fear what he has to say. Do you think Gen Z actually understands how much power centralized platforms still have over something that was supposed to be decentralized? I would have to say yes. Most of Gen Z is also anti-establishment, and for good reason. We can just look at the 2020 scamdemic for that.
17 members of the Broward Sheriff's Office, which include both BSO deputies and detention deputies, released from the federal courthouse in Fort Lauderdale after being indicted on charges that include wire fraud after federal investigators said they fraudulently applied for and received funds from the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP loans.
Most of Gen Z has grown up seeing how the traditional way of life, you go to school, get your college degree, work hard, give a firm handshake, get hired at a company, and then work there and be able to, live. That doesn't work. That's a scam. That's old, outdated, and flawed. They've seen that the previous generations, millennials and above, have been lied to, cheated, and worked to death. They value their mental health, and they're more well-informed than other generations because they have easier access to information. This easier access to information has led to a large rise in independent journalism and research and fact-checking. No longer just believing what the man on TV says because he's on TV, but double-checking that he's not spewing lies through his teeth, which most of the time he is.
Washington, and there is smoke pouring out of the Pentagon. It would appear that there has been another major explosion, this one in the nation's capital. You are looking at a scene of apparent blast aftermath. There is smoke in the air over the Pentagon.
And the lies of COVID and being locked in, treated like animals, and then this constant media war that seems to be brainwashing people, has turned them very much against the establishment, against the status quo, anti-big corporation. So when it comes to these centralized powers and how much power they actually have over a technology, cryptocurrency, that was supposed to be deregulated, I feel that by and large they do know and they're wary of it. Look at the CEO of Coinbase. Now, I'm not saying that he is your typical Gen Z individual, but what I'm saying is with the Clarity Act, he was one of the first people to speak out about all these different poison pill protocols that were being shoved into it for something that's supposed to be a deregulated form of currency, of exchange, to try and manipulate and control it by the traditional banking system. he was able to shed light on that to many people who do their own independent research and found out, yeah, the traditional system is kind of lying to us and still has a little bit too much control for our liking.
Joining me now is the man himself, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong. Brian, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. And you tweeted out some of your concerns. You write this: after reviewing the Senate banking draft over the last 48 hours, Coinbase unfortunately can't support this bill as written. There are too many issues, including a de facto ban on tokenized securities, DeFi prohibitions, as well as erosion of the CFTC's authority, draft amendments that would kill rewards on stable coins.
In the Clarity Act, they were targeting yields on stable coins and custodial platforms and custodial wallets. And at that very point in time, and even still now, we have multiple platforms in the XRP community that are non-custodial. One of those being Zaman Wallet. Now they match us up with Flare, bada bing, bada boom, and you suddenly have a completely independent ecosystem away from the central banks already before the Clarity Act even was on people's minds. This was already a thing. Here's another example. We've had FXRP on the Flare ecosystem for a while now, where we are able to earn native and passive yields on our XRP. Completely legit, non-custodial, the way we want to do it. We are able to do it currently. And just keep in mind here, we have a head of product on X and an advisor to Solana in the Solana ecosystem. Solana comes out a few days ago, not sure when it happened, and brings out Solana version of wrapped XRP. But the difference here is Solana is custodial. So already there is an issue, and people fail to see this. And that is something I wanted to make sure I said before we go on to question 4. You feel me?
Do you feel him, sir?
If crypto was created to remove gatekeepers, why does it feel like new gatekeepers are quietly taking their place? I would say that's because it is. There are people, groups, individuals, institutions, whatever they may be, who wish to either maintain the current status quo of control or gain new control. The one thing they all seem to hate is freedom. So they want to try and put as many roadblocks in the way to slow or stumble their competitors so that they can amass as much control and power as possible. Now, thankfully, there are a lot of people who are fighting against this, who are advocating for the freedom of cryptocurrency. I would say that we're kind of at a tipping point, or a fork in the road, where we have to decide through legislation if we want cryptocurrency to be a legitimate form of banking and payments, but is uncontrolled by any one group or government, or if we want more regulatory governmental oversight and control, or institutional control, to maintain a certain level of transaction safety. They will always bring things back to safety. And there's a quote from, I believe it was Thomas Paine, that I really love, which is, "Those who sacrifice their freedom for safety deserve neither and will lose both." So if we cave to any kind of terror or fear-mongering when it comes to cryptocurrency and its technology, I think that we will probably lose any kind of beautiful decentralized power, medium of exchange, staking opportunities that we had or that we could have had if we allow it to become centralized, controlled, and let gatekeepers turn it into another digital form of banking than what it should be. Watching everything unfold, do you feel more confident in the future of crypto, or does it make you question who really is in control? I have a motto, which is pray for the best, but prep for the worst. I would love for crypto to move in a positive direction, but I'm going to actively set myself up in a position to where if it moves in a negative direction, some evil group or institution gets their tendrils on it and starts using it for control, I'll still be able to take care of myself. But on a personal note, I am more optimistic because I see mass institutional adoptions and new opportunities, especially from the tokenization of real-world assets like real estate. Because have you tried to buy a house? That is such a ridiculously slow cumbersome and inefficient process. But having houses tokenized and easily exchanged, well, more easily exchanged than they currently are now, would make things so much simpler, easier, and reduce levels of friction that might increase the number of homeowners there are if the boomers would ever get off their high horse and just let a house go for, I don't know, less than $1 million.
Tokenized real estate is one of those things that people do not even realize is even accessible at this point. At this very point in time, you can tokenize your house and start selling shares of it and paying out rental income. What does this do? It takes a lot of the burden of ownership off of you as a homeowner. But to be completely honest, I am not a homeowner, so I could not tell you exactly how this works. But Lofty is the #1 tokenized real estate platform. It uses Algorand on the back end, and this is probably something I will be looking into very shortly. I think this is very cool, and maybe we'll do another video on this in the future. But essentially, pick a property, any property, right? You can buy a share here, and you will go ahead and make average rental yield off of this being paid back into your account daily. Now, obviously, the reviews on this are not very much. I'm not sure how many people are actually using this, but you know what? I'll go ahead and do this for a video for you guys so we can just take a look. Why not? But there is definitely some good opportunity here. Let's see. We got one in New York here. 12% undervalued, 14% rental yield. Current rental yield is 2%. Average rental yield is 14%. So we'll see. Property managed by Ecosystems LLC. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. Just wanted to let you guys know. Let's move on to the next question. So this takes a barely liquid asset like property and makes it completely liquid on a secondary market. So if you're a property owner and you need liquid now, go ahead and sell shares of your token. This is literally what people are doing. This is what they do. And what do you get in return as somebody who buys a share of that property? The owner of the property gets liquid like this very fast, and they go ahead and pay the token holder a little bit of rental income as that comes in. People don't even know about this yet, guys. They don't.
Question number 6. When you hear about investigations like the one into Zbeck Network, does it make you more cautious about the space or more curious about what is really going on behind the scenes? As an investor, it actually makes me feel slightly more bullish or confident. Reason being, there is now oversight. It's not full-on Wild West like it used to be. It's also not full totalitarianism, ultimate control. There's a system of checks and balances keeping watch over people like Zbeck and the potential nefarious activities they're taking part in.
The photos you are currently looking at are of a conversation that was started between me and I guess some researchers with Uphold, one of them being the head of research at Uphold, who followed my X account and knows about this situation after I started questioning the links to Sam, Sahan, and the Treasury wallet in Uphold. They refuse to answer questions, and you guys are seeing the result of that right here. They won't even let me ask the questions live. They want the questions put out in public. I don't want them to know what I know. I don't want to tell them and show them my hands, right? You guys can do the work. I've pretty much showed you the point here. I've showed you I've kind of showed you what was going on in the last episode. And because you guys don't want to answer questions, it just makes you look worse and worse and worse. And so now we're going on a live spaces with Simon, and you guys are going to pretend to be forthcoming and answer questions. You guys don't answer any questions. And there's the proof right in front of you. So why is a no-name X account, a no-name YouTuber who nobody cares about, getting all this attention from Zbeck, from London? Interesting.
Now, as an investor, you still have to do your own due diligence, but it's very nice to know that there is some level of regulation and control so that you're not just getting rug pulled by something that seems legitimate. I would say, if anything, it would make me more curious, because now that I'm seeing the light being exposed, I want to see what they did, how they did it, and how they got caught. That way I can look for red flags in other projects I'm going to be invested in. And one great place that we can look for this information is none other than No Face's channel. That's right, a shameless plug for my man No Face. He has been crushing it in terms of investigative journalism reporting on the Zbek situation. Y'all should definitely like, comment, and subscribe.
Whatever. Please, I want to reach 1 million likes. So please,
I'm going to give you guys a little teaser into the next episode of the Zbek investigation. Operation Sam I Am. No, I have not forgot. And when you are dealing with economic warfare on this level, you must look at it from the outside looking in. We're not just going to talk about Zbek here. We need to go a little bit deeper, right? London is literally the banking capital of the world. They specialize in having absolutely no laws when it comes to laundering money. 100%. And here's a little clip to support that.
Go and knock on the door. You won't find staff. They are literally been set up as a shell to hide the true ownership of who really controls and benefits from the money flowing through that company. This is a crucial area that the government says it wants to tighten up. But this is one of those reforms that's been talked about for years and nothing has been done.
The cash, by the time it's got to London, has probably already gone through a couple of British overseas territories, like the British Virgin Islands. And it's really important in that situation that you have really clear, well-enforced rules. And that's something Britain simply doesn't have.
There have been huge questions asked for years about the UK's record on enforcement. Often, UK law enforcement agencies are simply outgunned by the big lawyers that worked for corrupt and criminal individuals.
The Serious Fraud Office, for example, has a budget of £50 million a year. It's possible to spend gigantic amounts of money in the UK economy with a mask on.
You're supposed to tell the Companies House Registry who the real owners, the beneficial owners of companies are. But in practice, it's really easy to evade those rules. And fundamentally, no one goes after companies that just lie.
It's essentially a wild west of information which is unverified and in some cases ludicrous.
You can put forward any name, hide your identity.
There are Adolf Hitlers and Donald Ducks and Mickey Mouses.
It is so easy to register a company on Companies House. It costs £12. You can do it in minutes. And crucially, no one checks the information.
Now, forgive me when I start exposing the truth about Zbek and their alleged barrister, who, by the way, has a very terrible previous history. I've already addressed this before. You go into his previous cases, things he has worked on, presentation he has done, and this man gives a presentation on the loose laws in cryptocurrency, basically putting it out in front of everybody. Hey, I'm a barrister. I don't care if you have an illegal cryptocurrency company. I will fight libel claims for you. This is exactly what happens, guys. Ridiculous. But I digress. I don't want to go into Zbek crazy in this video. Just understand that the level of control that these people have knows no bounds. And it's very easy for these people to get some random Americans to take money and get other Americans to buy into a project that has no real utility value. Facts. On to the next question.
Do you think censorship in crypto spaces is a temporary phase or the beginning of a long-term shift toward controlled narratives? I am anti-censorship. I believe people should have the freedom to say what they want, even if it hurts other people's feelings. I do believe that this is a desperate attempt to try and control the narrative to gain more power and control. However, controlling the narrative has become harder and harder in recent years due to the mass number of people who are actually paying attention now, and also doing their own research and fact-checking. It's getting to the point where you're going to have to be able to lock down individual devices. For example, let's say Jimmy wants to know what's going on with cryptocurrency, and something big is happening in the Ethereum network, but everyone behind Bitcoin is raging war against them. Suddenly, his feed is full of nothing but Bitcoin, 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 and no one's allowed to post anything about Ethereum for 24 hours, because every time you try to post, it's like, oh, we're sorry, we're experiencing higher volumes of network transaction, blah, blah, blah. Or if people are posting anything about Ethereum, they get their accounts put into restricted mode, similar to what we're seeing happen on X right now, where they're trying to control the narrative by locking down individual accounts. Now, that can work a little bit, but really what it does is it pisses people off, and most people have more than one account. So they're going to have to start device locking. looking at your IP address, seeing what your device number is, and then blocking that from communicating. Basically excluding you from all of society so that they can control the narrative. Because what they're doing now is causing way too much backlash. If the biggest conversations in crypto can be limited or removed overnight, can the space still honestly claim to be transparent? Yes and no. The space itself and the actors in it who are interested and have, skin in the game, they still wish to be transparent. They still wish for their information to be shared. But it is the platforms and those who are influencing them that is controlling the narrative or trying to put a digital witch's bridle upon the people. What we really need is to take the concept of the blockchain and how it handles financial transactions, how there's no one company behind crypto itself for the government to lean on and put pressure on to try and control and manipulate how people do their banking. We need to take that theory of decentralized, no one person controlling it, and put it towards a social media app. That way, we can at least have one place where we're able to share our ideas, our thoughts, our opinions, our comments, and criticisms without having our accounts blocked, silenced, shadow banned, controlled, restricted. Basically, we just need an open public digital forum that no one government or institution controls. That way you can't be silenced when you say something that one of the higher ups don't like. Think our generation is actually doing the work to find real high-quality crypto projects, or are we too distracted by the hype cycles and missing opportunities right in front of us? I'd say we'd have to use the Pareto principle for this one, the 80-20 split. 80% of people are missing the opportunities because they're focused on the hype trains, because they're not doing their own due diligence, which you guys who are watching this video are the kind of people who do your own due diligence, so good on you. But I would say that 80% aren't doing their due diligence, they aren't doing their research, they're falling for the hype trains, they have the attention spans of less than a goldfish. We can thank weaponized, algorithms for that one. But 20% actually are in the trenches, doing their research, reading, learning, and growing. And it's that 20% who are going to end up experiencing the most gain, the most opportunity, the most growth. Now, when it comes to older generations, I don't even think they hit 10%. I'd say maybe 5% of them are actually doing their research, looking for it, trying to figure it out. And the remaining 95% are just being like, I heard of Bitcoin, let me put my money in it. Or I've heard of this coin, put their money into it. They don't even know what the blockchain technology is. They don't know how it works. And if you ask them to describe basics about crypto, they have no idea. The saying goes, knowledge is power. But I say applied knowledge is power. Because if you know about something but you don't do anything, you won't get anything. So it's the 20% who learn about it, who gain the knowledge, and then those who are ballsy enough to take the risk, to put some skin in the game, who will end up making massive financial gains over the long run when it comes to crypto. Because they've done their research, they know which technologies, which institutions, which individual coins are providing what goods or services, rather than just being some kind of hype that everyone jumps on, some pump and dump scheme, or something like Bitcoin, which is just a reserve of value. It's only valuable because there's not very much of it, but it doesn't really serve any purpose. It's utility coins that are going to end up becoming the next big wave. And the people who are doing their research now, who are learning about the utility tokens early, those are the ones who are going to benefit the most.
Education, education, education. It is the number one pillar of my channel. It is what I believe in. It's not even about the money. It's not even about the charts, guys. How many times have you heard me say, just learn, 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 practice transactions, practice bridging your currencies, practice gaining yield, practice using the actual ecosystem itself. Because when you acquire these assets, you already know how to use the ecosystem. When this shit pops off, you are going to be one of the few who already know where to go, what to do, how to benefit, and you will already have the assets to benefit from that. I mean, education now, like, you want to make money off of cryptocurrency, you want to really give yourself the best shot to benefit from this whole crypto wave that is going to take over the financial system, learn, and learn now. I already became rich. I already became wealthy in knowledge. years before this was going to happen. So when this does happen, when XRP or any other asset, let's say that I hold goes up hundreds and hundreds of percent, if it does, I'm not going to sell. I'm not going to be surprised because I already know what's going to happen. I'm expecting all of this because I've done the research. I have the conviction. You will not survive if you do not have proper research and proper conviction in the cryptocurrency you are holding. And that brings up the tough questions. That forces you to ask hard questions. I've had to sell assets before that I did not want to sell because I found out that shit was not good. Not just Zbeck. There's other ones too. So research is very important, guys.
Question number 10. Do you think people our age are critically thinking about these issues or just chasing trends and ignoring the bigger picture? I'd have to say, by and large, we have more people in our generation who are looking at the bigger picture than other generations. But in our generation, there are still many people who haven't woken up to the real world and are not focusing on the bigger picture. Now, you can't really blame them because when you look at the world, it's designed to take your attention, to distract you, to keep you focused on other things. Online platforms benefit more from rage bait or rage engagement than they do from actual information sharing, because anything that keeps you on the platform longer gives them more chances to give you ads to make money. It's late stage capitalism, and one of the bad things about it is it doesn't promote growth or innovation or even public discourse. It tries to keep you distracted and controlled. So most of the young people aren't paying attention to the bigger picture, but more of the young people are paying attention to the bigger picture compared to previous generations, which is why Gen Z has the actual opportunity to bring about massive change on every level of society.
Bring to light widespread fraud that's happening inside our nation, and we the people have had enough of our hard-earned money going towards fraudsters as if it's no big deal. As I speak here, I want to ask everyone a question. How much do we trust when we pay our taxes it's going to benefit our nation?
Question number 11. If the trajectory continues with bans, investigations, and growing uncertainty, where do you think crypto is actually taking us as a generation 5 or 10 years from now? I think if we continue on this path where the trad banking system is poisoning the ecosystem, filling it with lies, doubt, uncertainty, and doing everything they can to get their claws dug in as deep as possible for control, then I see the worst case scenario being the adoption of a CBDC system. CBDC, central bank digital currency, a one world currency, in which they control everything and they merge it with digital IDs. So everything you do is now online and everything you purchase is now on the chain. Think about it like this. You say something that pisses off a politician in England. You say something dumb like, oh, England has such lousy police for knife crimes. How ridiculous. The politician over there gets pissed. He makes a phone call, calls over to our guys. They look you up. They see everything you do, where you live, what you drive, and they block your ability to buy and sell. They deactivate your account. Your dollars are no longer accessible. The governments have already phased out physical currency. They started with the penny and then it went up to, say, the nickel, the dime. Eventually they're just like, it costs more money to print physical dollars than it does the worth of these dollars. So physical currency is gone, digital is all that's remaining. You're only allowed to do anything through the digital ID, which controls everything about your life. A new form of digital slavery comes. That is where I see worst case scenario headed.
You know, I want to say that I very much so hope that never happens. I don't want that to happen at all by any circumstances, by any shadow of the doubt at all. But it is very important to be educating yourself for this event, guys. Why do I have all my crypto on cold storage? Because the government has to physically come and find that shit. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But regardless, they physically have to come take my shit. So that is the only way you can prepare yourself, guys. That's it. That's it. Other than that, homestead, just get to a point where you only have to rely on yourself. And putting some crypto away, being prepared for a situation like this to come is a perfect way to do that. Whether you truly believe that this will happen or not, this should be looked as a hedge. This is a hedge. Just like silver is a hedge.
Finally, I believe we are currently at a massive inflection point in crypto, where we are about to see 99% of projects go to zero and only the strong survive. When do you believe that time is coming in relations to the Clarity Act? How much longer after the fact do you foresee this taking? It looks like No Face and I are on a similar mindset when it comes to this. I do believe that crypto is at an inflection point, a fork in the road, where it's either going to turn and be used for good or turn and be used for evil. Hopefully the former, not the latter. Now, when it comes to when this will happen, my thought process is 1 to 3 years. For a couple different reasons. First off, the presidential election cycle. There's a lot of things that end up just conveniently taking place right before major elections. So that's why I give us a little 1 to 3 year time limit. Now, it may be a little bit after, as one of the first things that the next president does is fixing the current crypto situation. So 1 to 3 years. 1 year on the fast end if things with our national debt start getting really out of hand, or we have a couple more economic black swan events. 3 years if they have it being more of a slower fizzle before something pops off. That way they can take advantage of the panic to gain political power.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we move forward to the second half of this video, I want to go ahead and let you guys know the news that I am officially reinstated back on X as the #1 most hated crypto truther. I need you guys to go ahead and tap in, follow my account, link in the description below as always. And obviously, I don't know how long this is going to last. They're going to try and ban my account again. I'm too nice with it. I know they will. But you guys need to go ahead and tap in now, because when this next Zbeck episode drops, I'm setting all of crypto Twitter on fire. All right? Especially now that we have the Zach XBT investigation into all this other shit. There's so much stuff going on. But in order to provide proper context, this is almost divine, perfect timing. Because the next portion of this video is going to be exclusively on economic warfare and how we really got here. I don't think a lot of people really understand the point we are at in cryptocurrency and in this world financially. Things are about to change, for better or for worse. With that being said, let's go ahead and move forward to the second portion of this video, guys, where I feel like Alex is very educated on this topic and he knows what's up. And I figured I'd ask him to speak specifically to economic warfare, being that during the beginning times of my Zbeck investigation, or when things started to heat up a little bit, he was the first person to say, this isn't just a crypto scam, this is economic warfare. And my God almighty, I believe Mr. Alex is correct. So with all due respect, let's go ahead and move forward to the second half of this video. You feel me? But we are absolutely locked in. Go ahead and tap into that Twitter account. Don't leave me hanging, guys. You feel me?
And now, secret extra bonus question number 13. No Face has asked me to talk a little bit about the economic warfare that's going on, the shadow governments, and more of the conspiratorial things that are happening behind the scenes. And I think the best way to explain this is by reverse storytelling, showing you how we got here by giving it to you retrograde motion, starting in the modern day and running it all the way back so you can see just how insidious this economic warfare has truly been. Let us start at the modern day. The US dollar is constantly losing its value through inflation. Our purchasing power is weaker and weaker year over year. This is because of a couple of key features. One key feature, this really cool thing, is called debt, which is a form of economic slavery. The US government spends more money than it makes, which is irresponsible, I know. But they take out huge loans to cover it, and then they tax you to pay the interest on those loans. However, in the last few years, the US debt has gotten to the point where our interest payments is larger than our entire military budget. And we have the largest military budget in the world. This is a direct attack against the value of the dollar. It is being done intentionally. Now, why would anyone want to devalue the dollar? Well, the US dollar is one of the strongest forms of currency on earth. Most trading is done in the dollar. It's called the petrodollar for a reason. Most oil deals are done in the US dollar. Now, there are other countries that are trying to form BRICS. It's an acronym for multiple different nations that are agreeing to trade oil in currency other than the US dollar. The dollar is so strong that they had to create their own Legion of Doom to try and fight it. One of the reasons for the devaluation of the dollar through inflation or taking on debt is because it separates the wealthy from the poor. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. The reason for this is as the value of the dollar decreases, you need more dollars to purchase the same amount of goods and services. So when it comes to assets like homes or businesses, let's say you bought them 40 years ago for $80,000 and the value of the dollars has fallen. So now to buy those homes or businesses back, you'll have to pay a few $100,000. The homes and businesses may not have increased in value because you've added an extra wing or you've extended your sales to international markets. They could be doing the exact same thing. But now people are forced to pay more for the same thing, which means as long as you bought an asset, you get richer over time. This is on the individual level. Very wealthy individuals want devaluation of the dollar so their assets will increase in value, making more money for them. Because what they can do is they can take loans out against their assets, pay off previous debts with those loans, and then live off the loans, because loans are a form of debt, and debt is not taxable. So as long as the asset's value increases, the rich can constantly keep refinancing their debt, living on quote-unquote borrowed time, and never having to pay taxes.
Because you haven't paid any federal income tax for a lot of years. And the other thing I think is important.
It would be squandered too, believe me. But taking advantage of the laws of the nation. Now, if you want to change the laws, you've been there a long time, change the laws. But I take advantage of the laws of the nation.
Now, this system of debt was brought about by an institution, or institutions, aka the banks. And they did it through their puppet, Tricky Dick, also known as Richard Nixon, the president that I detest the most. Reason being, he took us off the gold standard and onto the fiat currency, which brought about the beginning of the death of the dollar. Before that decision, the dollar was backed by gold. One US paper dollar was a promissory note that, if taken to any bank, it could be exchanged for 1 ounce of US gold. This is why the saying used to be that the dollar was as good as gold. You could turn it into any bank, get an ounce of gold, you could take that ounce of gold and exchange it for any other kind of money, buy things with it, have it for yourself, who knows, who cares. But when Richard Nixon came around and he had certain individuals whispering in his ear, he took the dollar off the gold standard onto fiat, making it faith-based. Trust me, bro, it has value. Now, what that did was it massively unlocked the ability for debt, for borrowing. Great short-term economic growth because businesses and corporations were able to get their hands on large amounts of capital.
So, just a quick side note, guys. I'm currently editing this video, and the picture you are seeing right here on your screen right now is John Connolly. He was the official chair of the Treasury Department, I believe, during Nixon's presidency, and he was a big reason in us getting taken off of the gold standard. Well, JFK, I didn't know this shit, guys. JFK, basically, well, I knew JFK wanted to basically put us back on the gold standard or some silver standard or bring us on to some type of better monetary system, and they slimed his ass out. And apparently, Connolly was in the front seat of the fucking limousine this entire time, and I never knew about it. Apparently, he was a survivor, quote unquote, of the JFK assassination. Former military member. This is what they do. They always take former military people and put them in some fake assassination plots. Anyway, all I'm saying here is it's a little bit weird how he was a big reason, a big ear into Nixon taking us off of the gold standard, and he's in the front seat of the limousine when JFK gets slimed out. I'm just saying. Back to the video, guys.
Great for them. They can get large amounts of capital. Bad for you, the average individual who's just trying to live their life, because now that means your dollars year over year will be able to buy less and less. This is why we look back at history books and they're like, oh yes, back when, great grandma was alive in Nantucket, she could buy an entire pound of sugar for just 10 cents. This decision was a form of economic warfare against the American people in favor of corporations. But corporations weren't the ones who truly benefited. Yes, they got massive access to cash, but they also got debt, and then they had to pay that debt. And who did they get the money from? They borrowed it from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is not a part of the federal government, and it does not hold a reserve of cash. That name was chosen strategically to lure people into a false sense of security. They are the ones who can set the rates. They are the ones who get to decide which local or city banks are allowed to have access to money and how much rates that they can and or can't impose. They are the very powerful puppeteers, and they were spawned from The Creature of Jekyll Island, a book which No Face has mentioned a couple times. I think everyone should read. Some very insidious activities, very dark, occult, Epstein-esque, if you will.
I said, who would be crazy enough to build their house on top of a blood sacrifice altar? He said, well, Rockefeller would. Jekyll Island is where the Federal Reserve banking system was birthed and conceived. And at one time when it was functioning in the 1900s up to the 20s and 30s, some say 1/3, some say 2/3 of the world's wealth would vacation on that island. It was the highest conglomeration of wealth in a single place very often anywhere in the world back in the turn of the century. So it just seems like a little island that's not anything significant at all now, but it's amazing to see the financial side of the history of that spot. And so I'm sitting there looking at some of the things that he's telling, just thinking about some of the things he's telling me. We went out and walked around, and he showed me some of the cottages that had been restored, and the club itself, and the tennis courts, and they had a pier where the boats would come up, and he's just kind of showing me the grounds, and then we go to the museum. And he's talking a lot about the financial stuff and the guys that built it, and each cottage was marked and named. Some of them had been restored, some of them didn't exist anymore, but they had like a sign that this is where this one was, and that one was built by J.P. Morgan, that one was Rockefeller's, and that one was they had each one of them named. Well, they're all kind of native names, and then they're all got some kind of a plaque on who the financial mogul was that had built them. And they're not really elaborate, luxurious mansions. They're just simple cottages for the most part, which was kind of interesting to know that the richest people in the world built them, and they were very low-key and almost like a cabin in the woods instead of a luxurious house like you'd expect. And they all had Indian names. So I started asking him about the Indian history of the island, and he lit up. He just was like, that's what he really wanted to talk about, because he loved the Indian history. And so he takes me back to the museum, and he said, we got a lot of stuff on the Indians. He said this was actually like the government main community for a tribe of Indians that don't exist anymore. And that tribe was called the Timucus. And I said, well, that's interesting. My name's Tim. And anyway, I didn't know anything about the Timucus. I'm from Oklahoma. I've learned a lot of Native history, and I have some Native bloodline, but I did not know anything about the Timucus. So I just asked him, please tell me everything that you can tell me about them. There's something about the natives that I feel like I need to know. So he said, well, the Jekyll Island Club was actually built on top of everything that the Indians had. So they just kind of wiped the village out and built the club on top of it. So
it's the same story told throughout time. They were pulling the strings in the shadows. They even went during Christmas time when all the other politicians were away to secretly push their bills and agenda through. That's what formed the Federal Reserve. From there, they started slowly amassing power, but they ran into a roadblock. The value of the US dollar being tied to gold was just too strong for them to use their puppeteering style to take over the government, to influence corporations, to decide foreign policy through whisper campaigns, backdoor deals, secret funding. They needed a way to make sure that the value of the dollar was lower than gold. They needed it taken off of gold so they could bring about fractional reserve banking. What fractional reserve banking is, basically you deposit $100. The bank is required to keep a fraction of that $100 on hand in case of withdrawals. So say $10. They can then take that $90 that's left and then go and loan it out and collect interest on it. Now, when the US dollar was connected to the value of gold, they had to keep gold physically on hand equal to the number of dollars. So they had a very, very limited supply. They couldn't go giving out loans. They couldn't collect the usury or the interest. Their power was controlled and limited. Once we came off the gold standard and the fractional reserve came about, where you just had to keep a portion of dollars in reserve instead of physical gold, then you could loan out 90% of the money that was supposedly safe in the bank to other people to collect on interest. You keep a fraction of it, $10 left, $20, however it may be, in case someone comes to make a withdrawal. That way you don't have a run on the bank. Because of this, they can now loan out way more money than they had to keep on hand because physical gold is limited. Paper dollars are unlimited. On top of that, in 2020, due to, I think it was emergency mandates for the pandemic, banks are actually no longer required to keep anything on hand. It's up to their own internal risk management how much, if any, physical cash they keep in their bank. So they could theoretically loan out 100% of the money in the bank, leaving nothing in there. This has led to the banks, and especially the Federal Reserve, gaining unfathomable amounts of power and control. They were founded in 1913, and since then they've been able to slowly and systematically take over US politics through lobbying, because you can't call it bribery. So the banks will lobby for certain individuals to get into positions of power which will make decisions and policies that benefit the banks. Corporations saw this and said, hey, what if we did that too? And then we ended up in what we like to call a corporatocracy, where big businesses go and lobby for certain politicians to get in to then vote in favor of their business to make them more money, rather than voting for what would be best for the American people or in the best interest of their constituents, which has led to them being more focused on their donors and their own political careers rather than what they should be doing. This power came about through debt. Debt came about through the devaluation of the dollar. The devaluation of the dollar came about through fractional reserve banking because we lost access to gold-backed dollars, which came about because of the Federal Reserve. But why did the Federal Reserve come about? Now, we needed banking, we needed finance, we needed a way to have a system and structure in place. But a large Federal Reserve Bank, which is technically not part of the federal government, a separate entity, a company of its own, if you will, that was a bad idea. And it really came about after the Civil War. Before the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank and the ability for the US government to start taking out loans and debt, which it would then tax us for later, we didn't have income tax. In fact, there were only a couple of times in history, the Civil War being the most prominent one, where we were taxed on the value of our wages. That way we could pay for things like the war. Before then, the government was funded by tariffs from importing and exporting goods and services, and also government bonds. That is how the government used to be funded before it had access to debt through the Federal Reserve. Debt is a form of slavery. The borrower becomes slave to the lender. The Federal Reserve ended up becoming our masters, but it took them some time. Now, why did they get founded if we could theoretically survive without them like we did beforehand? And the reason for that is the Civil War itself. Many of the people who founded the modern banking system we have were on the side of the Confederacy. They were in favor of slavery. The Democratic Party itself actually formed the Ku Klux Klan, or they funded the Ku Klux Klan. But the individual families and bloodlines that were in charge of forming the banks, and specifically the Federal Reserve Bank, had a very large portion of their wealth invested in the South. And when the South lost access to free labor via the slaves through the Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln, they were very upset. Abraham Lincoln ended up being assassinated, and then they started laying the foundations for a Federal Reserve. But it still took them around, I think it was 70 or 80 years before. One time we tried to get off of the fiat currency system. My favorite Democratic president, John F. Kennedy, he had tried to take us off the faith-based currency system that we are on now, the fiat currency, the trust me bro. And instead, he tried to bring us onto the silver-backed dollar. No longer gold, but silver, which would have massively limited the bank's power and control. He was also assassinated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
Now we're going to take a step back. The Federal Reserve that we know today started back in 1913 due to losses from the Civil War. But it was not the first national bank America ever had, the first Federal Reserve we ever attempted. That actually spans back towards the formation of our Union. Back in 1776, we were fighting for our freedom from Britain. Now we're going to put a pin in the year 1776 because we're going to circle back to that.
He's very, very ruthless.
Here in a moment. But first, we're going to go to the formation of our first national bank, the first bank of the United States. It was brought about by Alexander Hamilton, and it had a 20-year charter. A 20-year charter just kind of means it was given a 20-year time frame in which to operate, and then it would be dissolved. A time limit on the bank so it couldn't become too powerful before it was decided on what would happen. It operated from 1791 until 1811. Then our next national bank was from the years 1816 to 1836, another 20-year charter. It ended up ending and not having its charter renewed because the president at the time, Andrew Jackson, had opposed it vehemently. This did lead to a little bit of a banking war situation, where all the banks were struggling for power. But we did not have a nationalized, super powerful Federal Reserve-like bank in between the years of 1836 to 1913. And now to circle back to 1776, the formation of our Union, the founding of America itself, the free world, the New World, formerly known as the British colonies, or the 13 colonies. They were very perturbed because they were experiencing taxation without representation. Their money, their goods, their services were being taxed and taken from them, and they had no say. The kingdom which they served was hundreds to thousands of miles away and knew nothing of the struggles they had here in the colonies of the New World. And one of the breaking points was the tea tax. Tea, the drink that they would have during the morning, afternoons, and sometimes evenings to unwind, relax, and just make themselves feel a little human after surviving in America without air conditioning, was being taxed by a government that they had no representation in, by a king that had no care for them. They hated it. This tax was brought about for one reason and one reason only. England was deeply in debt to the banks that they had borrowed money from so that they could wage war against the French. Because the British were in debt to the banks, they needed to get money to make their minimum payments. This is already starting to sound kind of familiar, and I don't like the sound of it. But they decided to tax their people. The people didn't like being taxed, and they revolted against them. This ended up starting a new war, technically a couple of wars because Britain attacked us a second time to try and regain the colonies after we had already gained our independence. But most people don't know or care about that. But this caused massive economic losses for the bankers in England. The English bankers are some of the most powerful old money bloodlines in the world. They centralized their power there, and then from England, conquering almost 25% of the planet throughout history, they were able to extend their reach to all four corners of the globe and set up systems and structures that would allow them to economically dominate the inhabitants.
I just want to give a quick, amazing, and thoughtful thank you to Alex Rose for taking part in this video on my channel. I have basically just been an editor for this video, but I agree with every single thing this man is saying. This is just absolutely fantastic, and I can't be more thankful to be taking part in this video with him and bringing it on my channel. Guys, all right, first things first, let's just recap very quickly just a few of the things, pull a few strings, and move on. We're going to close out this video gracefully like we do, and sometimes it's best not to say too much. I'm going to let my work do the talking here. But understand, okay, that second time Britain attacked us, they burnt down the fucking White House. All right? So let's just go from there and bring you guys up to speed one more time. And we're going to close out this video like the only way I know how. With that being said, the economic warfare is still very much here. And Zebek is a perfect example of that. So forgive me when I get letters from London and salty, very annoyed bankers in my inbox because I'm exposing the truth that is going on here. But Zebek, I got time now. Go ahead and subscribe to my X account. I got time now. And we're going to go ahead and drop another video on Zebek when I'm ready for it. You feel me? Let's close out this video. Show you guys what's really going on since Britain decided to burn down the White House.
200 years ago this month, 4,000 British soldiers lay siege to Washington, D.C. and set fire to the U.S. Capitol and the White House. And the burn marks on the White House walls are still there. The biggest surprise? A dinner set for 40. So the British feasted in the White House dining room before burning the mansion down.
Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset
on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Still winning when it's quiet. They don't see the sacrifices, only love the right. I was patient with the vision, I was violent with the doubt. Now the same ones who ignored me, trying to figure
All right. There's a lot I could say right now. First things first, we need to go ahead and just take a look at this. I had to snap because this is getting actually ridiculous at this point that the timing is lining up this well with the narrative. So we might as well just throw it in the video because it's here. So King Charles or Bitch Charles decided to say I find this joke absolutely insane. Like I don't think this is okay. But this is what he said.
At real estate redevelopment of the White Tent. At real estate, British, of course, castle last year. And I'm sorry to say that we British, of course, made our own small attempt at real estate redevelopment of the White House in 1814.
Straight up, I don't even think that's funny, bro. But you know what? Let me get mad about it. Don't worry about me, guys. We also need to take a look at what Trump did when these people came in. Hold on. All right. Trump literally had the Revolutionary War soldiers dressed up on duties for King Charles' visit. Troll rating, 11 out of 10. Guys, we got it all at the No Face Crypto channel. We're unboxing a real conspiracy in real time, connecting real history in real time with current events in real time. I'm bringing it all together for you right now. It doesn't matter how many people watch this video. The people who do and are watching right now know this video is valid. This is crazy. This is crazy, guys. This is crazy. Some shit's about to pop off. That's what I'm feeling. I don't know what. Something's going to pop off. I hope it's in our benefit. All I'm saying is these people are trying to take our money. So what's up? Yo, I'm not going to go ahead and fight in the field for y'all. But what I will do is if a Brit wants to come and throw on them gloves, we could throw it on. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go right now. So anyway, let's continue. When talking about economic warfare and taking a look at everything in our history as a whole, it becomes very clear where we are at and what is going on. And I'm sorry, but when John G. Trump, the uncle of Donald Trump, our current president, known as the crypto president, is the one who takes Nikola Tesla's work, brings it back to the feds, takes it to MIT, the same lab that Bitcoin and XRP come from, and then we get a document called the H-bar gold paper citing Nikola Tesla's archives were used for this shit. And we're not supposed to ask any questions. And if we go back in time, we're told that Nikola Tesla was allegedly writing the Tsar of Russia and these people in Britain and all this stuff about weapons of mass destruction. Yeah. Just like Iran and Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, right? So this is how they do things. This is military industrial complex. It's been around for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And I'm going to let Alex speak to that a little bit more. But understand that these are arms of the banking cartel, the Rothschilds, the 13 bloodlines, the Medicis. I mean, come on. I don't have to go too crazy, guys. Understand where you're at in history. We are at a pivotal point. We have a weapon in crypto and they know it. They know it. And so when I see a fake utility currency like ZBAC and fake utility and fake bullshit meme coins and just scams all over the crypto space, and half of them go back to the city of London and all these weird financial arms, this is economic warfare. This is the subversion of the American people. And a while back, I had a post saying, if you know who Yuri Bezmenov is, we can be friends. Yuri Bezmenov was a former KGB agent. He pretty much outlined over the last decades how they were going to destroy our country from the inside out. And I can play a little clip of that. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll let Alex close out this video. You feel me? But it's been an absolute pleasure and an absolute banger I just created. They should just go ahead and play this shit in schools. Forget about all your history classes. Lock in right here at the No Face Crypto channel. You feel me?
People who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them.
That brings us to the beginning of the modern world that we're in. But these old money ties, these old family bloodlines, these old institutions, shadow governments, and organizations stretch back thousands of years more. One of these organizations being the Freemasons, or the 33 Masons, which have deeply demonic ties to their origin. They can be traced all the way back to the Second Temple, back during the times of King Solomon in the Old Testament of the Bible. Now, in terms of the old world, there was only ever one group or institution that stood in the way and was doing banking better, that had brought forth a new form of banking, similar to how crypto is bringing forth a new form of banking. A new group, a new institution and technology that had challenged the status quo which had ruled for thousands of years. And when we find out what happened to this group, which is the Knights Templar, we have a clear comparison to what is happening to modern-day crypto. The Knights Templar brought forth competition to the banking industry by doing banking better, bringing forth new options and alternatives to traditional banking of the old world. So what did trad banking back then do? Same thing they're doing to crypto now. They were spreading lies, disinformation, misinformation, and using their political power to turn people against the Knights Templar. Accusations of immoral acts and embezzlement, corruption in the Knights Templar brought them forth for judgment by, I believe it was the King of either Spain or France. Now, why was the King of Spain or France in favor of traditional banking and against the Knights Templar? Well, it may surprise you, he was in debt to the Knights Templar because he had taken a loan from them at much better rates, a much more lenient loan, in order to fund wars. But he did not want to have to pay them back. So when traditional banking came around with their shadow government whispering in his ear, telling them, all you gotta do is discredit the Knights Templar, make them illegal, make it appear as if they are doing something bad, then you will no longer have to pay them back. The Knights Templar, being good, honorable men, did not have their own shadow government, misinformation, disinformation. They were playing fairly by the rules, and they lost. There is a saying, which is, morals are a poor man's poison. And their morals is what brought them down. They had the moral high ground, but due to the fact that they did not take part in the evils of the old banking world, they were defeated. Now we see the old banking world in our modern day, trying to spread lies, disinformation, and destruction of crypto. The question is, will we stand and let history repeat itself, or will we back crypto and fight like hell to prevent them from doing to the crypto what they had done to the Knights Templar, stripping us of our freedom of choice and ensuring that we can maintain economic slavery and oppression? There's so much more, literal thousands of years more, worth of history and examples, but I feel like this video is already long enough. But thank you very much, No Face, for letting me be a part of this. I had an absolute blast. These were some great questions. Thank you guys for listening to me rant on the history of the economic warfare, the shadow governments, and there's so much more to this subject itself. But the videos are already long enough. But thanks again, No Face. Everyone, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe come swing by and check out my channel. I'd love to see you there. And I'll catch you on the flip side.
Alright, guys. This video is already recorded. It's an hour and 20 minutes long, but I have to come in and say something. Alright. I mean, I can talk about the conspiracies all day. A lot of stuff is going on and has gone on for hundreds of years to this, to all of us, to everyone as a people. And one thing we did not cover in this video yet, I don't think so too much, is 9/11. And we all know, I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to talk about it. We're not going to touch on it too much, but you know, $2 trillion just go missing. Pentagon, fake plane, missile types of bullshit. Like, I don't know. All right. I just want to mention 9/11. Like, I didn't forget it, guys. Like, come on. But I think we need to come to an agreement on this channel that there are a few things I will not be discussing in the future. I'm not denying, you know, this stuff goes so deep, so we couldn't really cover it in this video. But Nikola Tesla just keeps popping up in all my research, not by choice, by happenstance. And, you know, a lot of science. I'm not going to mention any scientists going forward, anything of recent. I don't really want to mention too much of, all the really crazy stuff that could be going on behind the scenes. But I do very much so want to make a future episode on the looking glass and really question things.
I'm the cipher inside the system, encrypted rhythm, algorithmic wisdom. Bankers panic when I twist the prism, cause I decentralize the mechanism. Ledger lock, my code immaculate. Truth so sharp it decapitates. No fiat fate, lie emancipate. XRP flow, recalibrate. Invisible king with a digital throne. Phantom of finance, flesh and bone. I rise from data, self-made, self-known. Unshaken, I move in the zone. They manipulate, I meditate. They inflate, I innovate. They speculate, I educate. I'm the glitch they can't eliminate. Low res crypto, masked in motion, riding the wave like quantum motion. XRP devotion, pure explosion. Phantom of finance, full erosion. Low res crypto, chain reaction, breaking control, pure satisfaction. No middleman, just interaction. Rebel of rhythm, blockchain faction. From Tokyo ticks to London trades, my name echoes in crypto raids. I'm the anomaly markets crave, silhouetted in code. I misbehave. Monetary matrix, I override. Quantum ink where the truth can't hide. They kneel to debt, I walk with pride. No face crypto, decentralized guide. Every drop of fun, I distill the flame. Every smear campaign fuels the game. They'll remember the ghost, not the name. Cause legends don't chase, they claim. Go, ledger ignite. Phantom in flight. Man so bright. Can't see me, but feel my mind. No face crypto, phantom protocol. Standing tall while empires fall. Central chains can't cage it all. Unshaken faith, I break the wall. No face crypto, so immortal. Through digital doors, I breach the portal. Untraceable force, transtemporal. Phantom of finance, suiting and racks. No face crypto. No banks, no borders, no masters. Just vision and velocity. The world's asleep, but the phantom never rests street.